Today is April 24, 2020. I have with me Mary Gwak from Lawyer's Title. In real estate world, Mary Gwak would need no introduction. She is our title representative that we all work with. She ensures that the home that is being sold on the market is sold by the rightful owner, and when a buyer is buying it, they are buying it free and clear of any liens. So Mary, could you tell me a little bit more about you and your business?
Sure can. Thanks so much for having me on here. I'm super excited to be sharing with your friends and your Facebook guests. My name is Mary Gwak, Lawyer's Title. And as Shweta said, I am a title representative. Now, I'm one of those people in the world of real estate for consumers. A lot of times people think title company fees are junk fees, and they have no idea as far as what's being done or who's doing what. But not because I work in the industry, but I actually, within a closing process of a real estate transaction, I think it's one of the most invaluable components, both to a buyer and a seller. So I work with people like Shweta, like yourself, and mortgage brokers. Generally speaking, I don't work as much with consumers. What that means is I'm a little more business to business. So when you need a title representative as a real estate agent, you would seek out someone like me. And I work for an insurance company. Lawyer's Title is a Fortune 300 company, the world's largest. So we're part of a very large umbrella. But we are a insurance company. What is insurance company? What do they do? So essentially, we are insuring against things that, mishaps, things that happen that shouldn't happen. Our end result in a transaction is that we allow the seller to receive all his proceeds and not feel like he has any other further obligations to the buyer. Then in turn, the buyer receives the title policy that is letting them know if anything were to happen, whether it's 2 weeks after the transaction or 2 years or 20 years, that Lawyer's Title stands behind the authenticity of that deed, that they are the true rightful owners, that the seller's liens and loans have all been paid off and extinguished. So kind of in a nutshell, it's a lot to kind of bear, but essentially, like you said, we are ensuring for the buyer that they are buying the property from the right person and that there are no liens from the previous owners or our current seller, that I'm getting the property with just me, myself, and I.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's very important. When this is one of the biggest investments in life, and so they have to make sure that they're getting it free and clear.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because there are parts of the world that don't have this type of a mechanism. So when you think about real estate transactions, when you really kind of stop to think about it, there's really a lot of potential without title and escrow for there to be potential fraud. And that's in turn what we do. We're kind of that barrier. We call ourselves a neutral third party. So when you go into escrow with one of your transactions and work with myself and an escrow company, we're acting as the neutral third party to protect both the seller and then the buyer. Neutral.
Yeah, and sometimes between divorces or whatever, you need to know exactly how the money is going to be distributed. So
Exactly. And yes, that's actually a really one of the most interesting, fun facts, I think, about a real estate transaction that a lot of our consumers are not aware of. So, when people get a loan, when you really kind of think about the whole process, right? If I was buying a property and getting a loan from US Bank or something, US Bank is not giving my loan amount directly to you or to the seller. It actually gets dropped into the title company. So it's the title company that actually moves and pushes the money around for the big sums of money for the transaction. And again, that's where we play a neutral third party to make sure that everyone is protected.
Yeah. So how have you been impacted by today's challenges now, Mary?
I've always been a half full glass type of a person. But I have to say that it's been quite different. In the world of title, things have really settled down for us over the past 2 weeks. And I think the real estate industry in general, you've probably are seeing that more. You're probably getting more calls for people wanting to potentially sell or people that want to buy. I think a lot of the society is kind of coming out and just feeling like, okay, I need to get back out. But I would say for the first few weeks, some of our biggest challenges that we were getting was we were not sure what the county recorders were going to do. Now, luckily, we were getting daily updates very closely with the counties. But what that means is if for some reason the county recorders could not close, they couldn't record a document. So when we call a closing, it's because there's been a grant deed, there's been a transfer of title. So that was our biggest fear, was that maybe we might not be able to record. So what we all did cumulatively as an industry is we put different measures in place, essentially letting our consumers know if for any reason, let's say that all the money, everything was ready to go there, but we wake up tomorrow morning and Orange County Recorder says we're not recording, then we would have had measures set in place to be able to still facilitate a closing, because we were going to back everything that the transaction could be recorded as soon as they open back up, but we're authenticating everything because we're ensuring the work.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the things that was the biggest challenge. So that was an impact. The other impact that I'd like to share is notaries. That has become, and that's still kind of ongoing because of our current situation. There are a lot of people that are unwilling or unable to meet individuals to do signings. And we always need notarized documents. So there was a little bit of a scramble for that, but we all, we came together as an industry and figured it out. But that is one thing that I let people know when we go into new escrows, that we make sure we have plenty of time to get our documents notarized. We're not looking for a notary last minute.
I know. I just had a closing recently, and my buyer had to close on time in order for the seller to close on their property. So if closings don't get close on time, then a lot of transactions fall through. So
right. Well, sometimes, right. I mean, exactly to your point, it's kind of a trickle down effect. It's not just that one home, like, oh, what's the big deal? It's a day. Yeah. But you see where transactions go bad. There's like moving trucks in the driveway and they haven't closed.
Yeah. It's like a backlog then. And you're like, oh no.
Right.
So what are some changes that you've made, like apart from like how you're working? Are there any changes that has impacted? Do you see any delay or?
You mean it just kind of as a title representative and in the industry, right?
Yeah, just like,
so
are you still working on like?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little busier these days because some of us are trying to get more done, really kind of utilizing this time to make sure that there's no gaps or hiccups or delays in anything that's within our control, right? Because just like yourself, I'm an outside salesperson. I mean, generally speaking, our office was our car. But now we're spending a little more time in the confines of our home office or our kitchen table. So I'm just making sure that our prelims are coming out, our preliminary title reports are coming out in a more timely manner, making sure that, whether it's buyers or sellers or my agents all have a good understanding of the prelim report, trying to be proactive. But I do think that as an industry for us in real estate, well, I mean, the whole culture, but real estate more so, I think we are going to see some sort of a longer term effect for the good. I think we're going to have some options and availability to us of being able to be a little more virtual. I mean, look at this, you and I are each sitting in our own homes. We've probably got dinner in the crock pot and families downstairs or in the other room. And we're able to sit here and possibly help educate dozens and dozens of people.
I know. In fact, I think it's a good thing in a way that it has forced us to come down to this virtual world, giving us a little bit more time with our family, at the same time getting things done, being professional and reaching out
Right.
to people. So
Right. I mean, imagine, Shweta, this is something that I was thinking about, but imagine if, let's say I was someone that lived in Los Angeles and I'm relocating to Irvine because I want a slower pace of life for my kids, but I work a 9 to 5 job and I really want to see this home, but with traffic, I'm just not going to make it out on Thursday. Well,
yeah,
maybe you end up being able to go and do a FaceTime in the property or something.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, those are the types of things that you do now,
yeah.
and it's made life be possible.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, you know what? I don't need to rush down there to do this. It can be done
Right,
virtually. So
right, right. That's what
if
I think
it's
is great
really
about
worth the drive, then I will drive. But if not, I don't want to wait the Saturday on this.
it. Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. So you've been doing this for how many years now, Mary?
Um, I don't want to give that away. No. So in May, I'm coming up on my 17th year.
So you've
Um,
been like working with realtors for 17 years, and I've been kind of following the trend of the real estate.
yes,
You've seen
yes.
the ups and downs.
Yes, I was
So
part of the 2008 crash,
yeah,
and what we're going through now. So it's, yeah, I don't think though, I never really like to talk about how long I've been doing it because it's such a fast paced industry. Like
yeah,
one of kind of my pet peeves amongst, like industry within my own industry is people that say like, oh, I've been doing this for 30 years. It's like, well, whether you've been doing it for 3 years or 30 years, you still have to be good at what you're doing and you still have to continually educate yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that is true. No, the reason I asked was because I know you've been doing it for long, and you've
Yeah.
seen the ups and downs of the industry.
Yes.
And you've kind of, and before that, I remember you mentioned you were in a stock business as well. So
Yes.
you've seen a lot. And
Yes.
wanted to just see what, and are there any recommendations that you would share, or like any suggestions with the audience?
I would say, when we think about our industry, yours and my
Yeah.
industry in the space of real estate, what I see right now definitely is, I am not a economist, but from what I see out in the field, what I hear from you guys, what I hear from just kind of the chatter all around us in the real estate space is there's no doubt. I mean, once we all get back into our cars and start driving to work and all of that, that life has changed, but real estate itself is still, we're still kind of plugging along. Now, mind you, it has slowed down,
Okay.
but if you're in the market to buy a home, not everybody has lost a job,
Yeah.
right? So if I needed to buy a home, I'd be kicking myself next year if I didn't do it right now with the phenomenal rates.
Yeah.
And if I needed to buy a home, but I didn't because I thought, oh, the prices are going to go down. See, I don't like this time. It feels very different than 2007, 2008. 2007, 2008 was, the climate was just so different. It was really kind of like belly punches straight into real estate. But this is something that we're going through as an entire world.
Yeah.
Every human that's alive right now in one way or another has been impacted.
Yeah.
But as far as housing goes, it's not that people have, the climate that's different is that people have not been buying for the past 5 or 6 years over leverage. They've been putting 20% down. They've been getting increased earnings. So even if people are forced to sell, they're not going to have to sell as a short sale. So I don't
A
necessarily
lot of
see this.
equity that they have in the house now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I mean, I think that's what sellers are going to start realizing. Like if I were a seller, if I had to say, sell my home, before this whole pandemic, if I knew that my family's goal was to sell our home in 2020, this wouldn't stop me. I would probably put my house up for sale sooner than later. Because like right now, for example, the houses that show well, that are priced right, there is a buyer for it. I can tell you, I mean, without a reasonable doubt from the number of clients that I talk to, people are still writing multiple offers. Properties that show well and priced equitably well for both parties.
Yeah.
There are buyers.
Yeah. There are.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm so
Of
happy that you took the
course.
time to talk with us. And
Yes.
you have a wonderful rest of the week now, Mary.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.